A NASA aircraft sweeps low over northwestern Greenland, its radar pulses cutting through 2 miles of ice like an X-ray through bone. The scientists on board are expecting flat bedrock, frozen nothing. What comes back on the screen stops the entire cabin cold. There is something down there, something massive, something that should not exist. And the longer they stare at those radar maps cross-referencing them with old declassified blueprints, the more they realize they haven't just discovered something new. They've rediscovered something the world was never supposed to find again. In 1959, the United States Army carved a secret into the heart of Greenland. They called it Camp Century. But in reality, it was an entire city built not on the ice, but inside it. A labyrinth of tunnels beneath the frozen surface, complete with a hospital, a theater, a church, a grocery store, and at its beating heart, a nuclear reactor powering the whole thing. By 1964, the relentless pressure of Greenland's shifting glacial mass began to crush the tunnels from all sides. The project was abandoned. The military packed up what they could carry and left everything else behind. And when they left everything behind. Buried beneath the ice right now, researchers believe there are over 200,000 liters of diesel fuel, a vast reservoir of industrial chemicals, and millions of gallons of biological sewage all frozen in place, like a toxic time capsule waiting for the wrong moment to open. Back in the 1960s, scientists were unconcerned. The ice is thick, the temperature's brutal, the waste stays buried forever. They assumed Greenland would be its own permanent vault. But Greenland is no longer cooperating. Picture yourself standing on the ice, in every direction, nothing but white, an endless, blinding expanse, wind cutting across your face like glass. Nothing suggests danger. You take one more step and you freeze. Right at your feet, the world simply ends. A darkness opens up, bottomless and absolute, a hole so wide and so deep that the air rising from it carries a cold you've never felt before. A cold from a place the sun has never reached. If you had taken one larger step, it would have swallowed you whole. It was the mid-2010s when a team of geologists scanning Greenland's Hiawatha Glacier picked up something on their radar that made them stop and stare. A crater, hidden beneath the ice. Nearly 980 feet deep and almost 20 miles across, large enough to swallow the entire city of Paris. One of the largest impact craters ever found on Earth, completely invisible, buried under millions of tons of ice. The question consuming every scientist in that room was the same: what made this? To find the answer, they needed something surprisingly ordinary: quartz, one of the most common minerals on the planet. But when scientists examined sediment washed out from the base of the glacier, they found quartz grains etched with something extraordinary. Lines carved into the crystal surface at the microscopic level. Scientists call the result shocked quartz, and it only forms under one set of conditions: immense, catastrophic pressure, the kind produced by a violent impact from space. This was the fingerprint of something enormous hitting the Earth, hard. To understand why this electrified the scientific community, we need to go roughly 12,000 years into the past. Between 12,900 and 11,600 years ago, something went terribly wrong with Earth's climate. Temperatures plummeted, ice advanced, ecosystems collapsed. Scientists call this the Younger Dryas, and one leading theory suggests something fell from the sky, massive enough to kick so much debris into the atmosphere that it dimmed the sun and dropped global temperatures for over 1,000 years. When the Hiawatha crater was confirmed, researchers were convinced they had their answer. They dated the quartz as precisely as the technology would allow. The crater was 58 million years old, not 12,000, not even close. But then one final twist. Other scientists working across the eastern United States found more shocked quartz in sediment layers dating precisely to just before the Younger Dryas. And unlike Greenland, there were no craters nearby, which means whatever happened didn't hit the ground. It may have exploded in the atmosphere, a massive comet fragmenting on entry, detonating above North America, igniting vast stretches of land and triggering the deep freeze that followed. Scientists are still searching for final proof, but the ice has already given them more than they ever expected. Compared to a continent-altering impact, these next features look almost modest. They're called moulins, dark vertical shafts, punched into the glacier surface, carrying meltwater all the way to the bedrock below. Scientists knew they existed. What they didn't know was how large they actually were. A research team descended into two separate moulins in 2018 and 2019, dropping over 330 feet straight down on ropes, barely stopping above the waterline. The people who made that descent describe it in one word: intimidating. Imagine leaning back over the edge. Below you, walls of slick blue ice, narrowing into pure blackness. No visible bottom. The only sounds are distant crashing ice and freezing water you cannot locate. That descent changed what we know. Moulins are far larger than our models assumed. And all that water reaching the bedrock doesn't disappear. It lubricates the base of the ice sheet, causing the glacier to slide faster toward the sea. The moulins aren't just holes in the ice. They're accelerators. Now look at Greenland from the air, and you will notice something that should not be there. Every summer, across hundreds of miles of ice sheet, the white turns gray, dark gray. A shadow spreading across the landscape, absorbing sunlight instead of reflecting it. Scientists call it the dark zone. Two forces are driving it: ancient black carbon, deposited by wildfires thousands of years ago and locked into the ice and algae, blooming each summer and turning brown under the Arctic sun, coating the surface in a layer that drinks in heat. As the climate warms, rocks dry out faster, winds carry more dust feeds more algae darkens more ice, darker ice absorbs more heat, and the cycle accelerates. Between 2000 and 2012 alone, the dark zone expanded by 12%. Greenland's ice sheet holds 8% of all the freshwater ice on Earth. In the 1990s, it was losing roughly 25 billion tons per year. Today, that number exceeds 230 billion, nearly 10 times faster. If it fully melted, global sea levels would rise by approximately 24 feet. Coastal cities on every continent would face permanent inundation. But here is what reframes everything. Greenland was not always white. Researchers found buried at the base of a 2-mile-deep ice core the remnants of an ancient landscape: willow wood, insect fragments, fungi, poppy seeds. Proof that roughly 400,000 years ago, Greenland was completely ice-free, a living tundra. Then the ice returned, sealing that world beneath the surface. The ice has collapsed before, and locked inside it are thousands of microbial species, many barely studied. As meltwater flows in growing volumes into the ocean, what those organisms do when released into a warmer world is a question science has not yet fully answered. The probability of anything catastrophic is low, but low is not zero. So here is where we stand. Beneath the endless white of Greenland's ice, there is a leaking nuclear ghost town, a crater left by a rock from space, accelerating drains, lubricating the bedrock below. A growing shadow eating the ice alive, and a frozen record of a world that existed long before us still breathing. None of this is science fiction. All of it is happening right now. The ice is not waiting for us to be ready.